Hi everyone, my name is Geffen. I'm the head media buyer here at Vendo, and today we're going to be talking about a new report that Amazon has released in the sponsored products console. It's the sponsored products budget report. So we'll jump right into what that means and what that means for your actions as an advertiser. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here. All right, so as you can see, it looks a little different. It looks a little smaller than most of the other reports. That's because it's a campaign level report. So it's just showing us each individual campaign on each row. And it's giving us a good amount of data, right? So let's walk through each column because each one can lead to action items that can drive more sales. In fact, this is the first time that Amazon has really forayed outside of just reporting the data and has actually begun giving you recommendations as to what you can do. And in the case of this report, not only recommendations, but also showing you, according to their metrics, on how much, blank you missed out on, how many clicks, how many sales, how many impressions. So we'll get to all that good stuff in a bit. But to begin, so it's going to tell you, first of all right, you've got your budget. Then it's going to tell you the first recommendation, which is your recommended budget right here. So you look at any of these, we've got, $1,000 budget on this campaign. They're saying $1,000.66, and $1,066, excuse me. When there are differences like this of less than 1%, it doesn't matter much. But when we get into, big discrepancies, like if your budget is, $100 and they're recommending $500, I would say look at the reasons why. You don't always have to take Amazon's recommendations at face value, but what you can see is that there is a reason why they're advocating for such a huge jump. There's obviously money being left on the table. I would say if that campaign's profitable, if it performs well, if it's a high performing SKU, take Amazon up on their word for a week or two and test it out, because there's a reason that their algorithm is giving you those recommendations. And part of their budget recommendations are just pretty simple. It's just how much time have you been in budget and how much time have you been out of budget. So here it's clear that we've been in budget only 70% of the time. So if I were to increase my budget probably by a 30%, then I'll run for the full day. And they don't clarify what time frame they're looking at, right? Is this that I run for 70% of the day? Or considering this is a last 30-day report, is this more along the lines of I ran for 70% of the last 30 days? My guess would be the latter, but they haven't clarified as to what that is. Regardless, it shows that we're not maximizing our budget, we are maximizing our budget, and we're if we had added more money in there, well, we'd be showing up more. So moving on, we're looking at the impressions, pretty straightforward data. So the account that I pulled this from didn't have a seller account last year, so it doesn't say last year impressions, but Amazon will put how many impressions you got during that time period last year, which is really helpful because you can see what's happened, right? So they're not going to give you your budget last year or anything like that, but you can just say, oh, this campaign is driving a lot more traffic. This campaign is performing better, because year-over-year growth is absolutely crucial. So it will tell you that here. Now, this is where we get into recommendation number 2, which is pretty interesting. They give you a range. So they'll say, what is the range that they can estimate based on your budget? So for this campaign that we showed up for only 69% of the time, they said that we missed, if we had advertised for the rest of the 30%, that we missed anywhere between 180,000 and 542,000 impressions. Now, obviously that's a huge range, so most likely that's the case. And what they did was pretty straightforward. Is they took 30% of 437,000, 30.2%, which equals just about higher than 180,000. So that range is worth looking at. But as we all know, impressions are arguably the least important of all of the actual revenue driving metrics. Now, if you have a brand awareness campaign going on, great, that's phenomenal. Then you know, look at impressions and definitely go for the high range here, because you want to generate as many impressions as possible. If you're not, you know, operating in a brand awareness setting, and you're looking more towards the you know, clicks and conversions, Amazon made sure to tell you what you missed out on there too. So just like impressions, they did the same thing with clicks. And apparently, according to Amazon, we could have had an extra 1,200 clicks or an extra 3,600 clicks, depending on the lower and the higher end of the range. I would always bet with Amazon, looking at how cost per clicks are going up and it's getting more expensive. I would probably advise you to assume that if you were to add, you know, if we were to add 30% to this campaign budget-wise, it would be on the lower end of the clicks. I can't imagine for the amount of money that they are requesting that we increase, that we get an extra 3,600 clicks. So here you've got the click-through rate, pretty straightforward. It doesn't really, you know, we get that data in the console as well, but it's good to have. It's good to just see, because they're giving you the clicks and the impressions anyway. And, you know, you're probably wondering, well, what's a good click-through rate? It depends. You know, video ads, you see much higher click-through rates than regular ads. Top of page ads are higher click-through rates than product detail page ads. In general, we see a rough range of about 0.3 to 0.5. The higher end being 0.6, 0.7%. And then anything, if you're running a sponsored product, non-branded campaign that's above 1% click-through rate, it's very strong, and you should lean into that, because that's an indication that your product is very relevant and very desirable for that term. So moving right along, you've got spend, which is pretty straightforward. Told you what last year's spend during that time was. Cost per click, same thing. Also tells you what last year's cost per click was too during that time frame. And then we've got regular sponsored product orders here, right? So total ACOS, 7-day orders. And then finally, what, you know, everyone is wondering about, well, okay, all of this is great, but could it actually convert into sales? And this is where, you know, I'm sure all of you have gotten recommendations from Amazon before, whether they're an email form or a rep sent you something that, you know, that is like a bulk upload. This is, I would say, take it with a grain of salt. You can test it out, right? So they're saying that I missed out on this campaign on at least 40% of the revenue, right? Well, I guess if you were to add this 25 to 40%, and potentially on the high end, 100% of the revenue. In fact, I would have increased my revenue by 100% had I increased the budget by 31% from the beginning. It's a tough sell on my end to believe that, but it's always important to take these into consideration, because whatever Amazon is showing you that you or is telling you that your account looks like is what the algorithm sees. So if the algorithm is seeing that you're not maximizing, or the algorithm is seeing that you're not performing well, which clearly they're telling us that we have, you know, an extra $12,000 a month sitting on the table, then the algorithm is ranking you and rating you in certain ways that might be negative. So just taking these into account and making sure that you're aware of what this report offers is really important. But just like every other report, you know, you take it with a grain of salt, and you make sure that you're aware of Amazon's overall goal, which is to make you spend more. But for a quick snapshot, right, it's only as many campaigns as you have. Now, I know there's some of you that probably use, you know, AI softwares that have 1,000 campaigns or 500 campaigns. So for those clients, or for those people, that this report's going to be long. But, you know, on the plus side, you're able to see it on a keyword level. Again, as long as your campaigns are organized properly, then you're going to be able to read this report with a lot of efficiency. If you've got branded and non-branded in the same campaigns, if you've got 1,000 keywords in there, if you've got no real order into how you organized keywords into campaigns and then name the campaigns, this report, the data is going to be muddled because the missed sales, the algorithm is going to be influenced by the branded conversions, and you might see some poor non-branded advice from Amazon, and you might lose some money or overinvest in some of those poorer performing terms. So that's just a note. Going back to one of our earlier podcasts of talking about campaign organization, campaign assortment, campaign hierarchy, just making sure, always going back and checking and double checking, whether it's once a month or once every 6 months, just going back and making sure that your campaigns are fully caught up, and you haven't been adding branded keywords into non-branded campaigns, or vice versa. So that's pretty much the gist of the budget report. It goes even further, right? It tells us that Amazon is looking at budget a lot more closely. You might have noticed over the past couple weeks, there have been some other changes as well. Amazon now regularly recommends budgets for you in the advertising console. They also can now allow you to schedule budgets, which is a big push. So what you can do is you can hover over the budget for your campaign, and it'll say schedule your budget, and you can click on that, and it'll tell you various peak days. So it'll say Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or Prime Day, or Valentine's Day, and it'll allow you to say for those days, or for a custom date range, you want Amazon to increase the budget by X%, which is phenomenal. Now, on the downside, it doesn't let you do the same thing for the bids. So let's say you set the budget for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. You could set it tomorrow, right? And say, just schedule it out for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. You're still going to have to go in and increase the bids. And so there's that manual aspect that Amazon is still working on. But these two updates, these two pushes, so the budget report as well as the budget scheduling, both of those have allowed us a window into Amazon's focus, which is allowing sellers to better manage their budget and to see where they're leaving money on the table. Because at the end of the day, as Amazon gets more pay to play, as it becomes more expensive, the money you're not spending becomes money you're not earning. So I would just recommend every once in a while, this doesn't have to be like a religious thing. This, as we always say, take everything with a grain of salt, but take a look at this report. It's very easy to download. It's where all the other reports are. You just be in sponsored products. You open up the drop-down list, and about halfway down, it's going to say budget. Currently, it's in beta, so it's possible that some of you might not have it, because Amazon does do a lot of A/B split testing among their sellers. But most people I have talked to, in fact, everyone I've talked to, does have this report available to them. So it's another step forward that Amazon is giving us some more access. We all know it's not quite Google or Facebook yet, but they're starting to show us that, we're going to have more control over our budgets. We're going to have more control over our spend. And I mean, as we saw all the way at the end here in column AD, it's possible that we're also going to have more control, more direct control over how much revenue we're driving from ads. The biggest problem with that is if they could only tell us how to fix profitability by lowering some cost per clicks, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen anytime soon. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Obviously reach out via email, Geffen, Gefen @Vendo Commerce, if you have any questions about this report, about any of the other reports. And yeah, thank you guys so much for taking the time, and I hope you learned a bit of nuggets today, and looking forward to the next one. Have a good one, everyone.